Yo, what's up YouTube? Today we're coming at you with a tier list. So today we are ranking Jojo Bizarre Adventure stands as to how well they would do in Squid Game. Now we all know Squid Game, or we all know stands for Jojo's Bizarre Adventure. But before we get into it, just a few things. I'm only doing parts 3 to 5 because anime only. I haven't caught up on the manga. And also exports, I did this before you, so don't steal my idea. So let's get in with some rules. First rule, it's if you had the stand, not the character. So Jotaro is not in to Squid Games, you are. Second rule, we're not just going to kill people, so Star Platinum is not just going to snap everybody's neck, because if we did that, then every stand would be S tier. Well, most stands, we'll get into it. Next rule, we are playing to win the Squid Games, so we're not trying to escape, we're not trying to take over the Squid Games, we're not trying to kill the people above, we're just trying to win that money. Next rule, we can't kill people, but we can cheat. So if you can cheat in any way, which may result in deaths, that's fine. And another rule, we're only talking about in the actual Squid Games, so we're not looking at in between, after the game, in the bed chambers, the riots overnight. We're not looking at that, we're just looking at the games by themselves. So let's get into it. We're looking at Stardust Crusaders, so hit like, subscribe, check it out for more because we will be doing the other 3 parts. As you can see, all the stands are lined up down here, but right now Stardust Crusaders, first stand, Star Platinum, and that's straight up useless. No, S tier. Why Star Platinum can stop time? Boom, S tier. Stopping time is completely OP. S tier already. Also, the strength helps, and you can stand hop. So in red light, green light, and the tightrope, you can just stand hop, like how Jojo does at the end of part 3. Just uses Star Platinum to bounce them off surfaces. Second stand, Magician's Red, solid C tier. Actually, D tier, I don't know what good fire is going to do in the Squid Games. You can melt your needle a bit for your honeycomb, but that's about it. As much as fire can do, it's really not that useful in the Squid Games. So, and Magician's Red's not really a physically offensive stand, so it's not going to be doing much. Hermit Purple, C tier. Again, because we got the cheating rule, you can just trip some people over in the Squid Games. Or you can cheat a marbles, you can do something like that, but it's more utility than Magician's Red. It's still not great, but more utility. Next up, Hierophant Green. That is S tier, simply because of the Emerald Splash. It can't be deflected, so it's S. No, not really. It's because of the ability for Hierophant Green to take over people's minds and control them. And mind controlling in the Squid Games is OP. You can make people die, you can make people throw the game, you can make people do whatever. And if you can do that, you win. Next up, Holy Stand, worse than useless. Why? It will kill you. Maybe Holy Stand is super OP, but as far as we know, it will kill you. Next up, Towers, solid C tier. It can do some things. It can shatter people's glass tile under tug of war and under the tightrope. That's about it. It can smash people's honeycomb. That's really it. It's a bit more useful than fire, but again, not that useful. Next up, Deep Blue Moon or the water stand. Useless. There's no water in Squid Games. Up next, Silver Chariot, B tier. I mean, it's a good stand combat-wise, but Squid Games, you can cut through honeycomb, and you can... We're not going to really cut people's Achilles, because that's kind of extreme cheating, but for most physical stands, they're going to get solid B tier, just because you can push people around and stuff like that. You can create movement for the camera, and then get the person shot, something like that. Boat stand is up next, not worse than useless, it's just useless, because, well... Bound stands are all useless because we don't have a boat. We're not getting a boat in the Squid Game, so it's not going to do much. Ebony Devil, the doll stand, fairly useless. You got to have the doll there, and you got to have a grudge with the person, and a bunch of other reasons. The stand isn't even that good in itself. It's only good in the anime, and I mean good loosely. It takes advantage of Polnareff because you can't see it, but not that good. Coming up next, Yellow Temperance, D tier. I mean, it can consume a little with its power, but not too much. Secondly, it's visible when it's touching things or when it's taking shape, and also when it's taking shape, it's got a feed, so we're not going to kill people. That's a rule, so it takes away a lot of its power. Otherwise, you just kill everybody. But in terms of not killing people, D tier. Coming up next, J Gale, C tier. Again, it's only on the reflection, so you can cut some things, but as long as you're not killing people, you can cut some things, and that's about it. On the reflection, actually, since it's limited by reflections, D tier, because there aren't that many reflections. Red light, green light, where are your reflections? I mean, there's some glass reflections in the tightrope game, but they turn off the lights, so he's useless. Gun stand, whole horse, no guns. Not useless, but no guns. Empress. I always get Empress and Priestess mixed up, but this is Empress, the one that grows early on. D tier. Simply because it can only happen one at a time. And that's really it. There's 456 people in there, and you can only have one Empress. Not very useful. Car stand, Wheel of Fortune. Yeah, no cars in the Squid Games. Coming up next, we have Justice. S tier. Why is it S tier? It was beaten so easily in the anime. Well, because it's got the fog that causes illusions, and if you can change the arena for everybody, then they'll not play the game properly and die. But also, if somebody's cut or has an exposed wound, then Justice takes control of that person. And that is super empowered. You can control people, you win. Coming up next, Lovers. It can pain sync, but how useful is synchronizing pain with one other person? I mean, not very. Unless you get like a giant shard of glass in you and that basically cripples somebody else. Not very useful. Coming up next is the Sun, and the Sun is it's worse than useless. Okay, so the worst and useless category is basically anything that causes a detriment to you, and the Sun stand will affect you. So unless you can hide, then it's not very useful. Also, it's a very exposed open area, not very useful. I mean, its only use that isn't hurting people is lighting up the dark room in the tightrope game so you can see the glass, but that's about it. Worse than useless. Coming up next, Death 13 only happens when a person's asleep, so not useful at all. Completely useless. Judgment is next. I don't know how many people are going to be making wishes in the Squid Game, but no one. It's useless. High Priestess is next as A tier. This is the stand that can turn into anything you want it to be. So if you need something to test the strength of the glass, you got it. You need something sharper to cut up your honeycomb, you've got it. Something to do something in red light, green light, I don't know what, but you've got it. It's just perfect utility to have anything you want for your needs. And also in A tier is the Fool. I'm just doing these in order of what they were on the list, not in ranking. But the Fool, most of the arenas are on sand or have dirt around them in some way. I mean, Squid Game is very sterile, but you can use dirt off anything. You can use dirt off your clothes, but especially in the first game, red light, green light, and the last game, the Squid Game, Sandstorm, super good, super useful, just obstruct everything. Water Hand is B tier. Now, I know there's no water in the Squid Game, but if you can take a water bottle in, you've got your stand, and you can use the stand to do a lot of things. Again, mostly it's just going to be cutting things like Silver Chariot, but you got water, you got a stand. But actually, it's just a limitation of water. We might drop that down to a C tier. The stand that I think is the worst stand in all of Jojo, the face-changing stand, what are you going to use it for? You're going to change yourself to look like somebody else. You might infiltrate another group, but you've still got the jacket and shirt on. You're still numbered, so if anybody's smart and pays attention to numbers, they'll figure you out quite instantly. I mean, you can change your clothes, but how are you going to infiltrate a group when the person's still there? Or are you going to pretend to be somebody else when the game's finished and that person's dead? But then the guards will just shoot you anyway, because they're like, number 17 should be dead already. And then they'll just kill you. Book stand, useless. So it's useless because you can see what the game is, but when you see what's in the book, you're bound by fate. So fate works is that if you resist fate, you die. But also, if that book says you die, you die. So you better hope that book says you win. But in that case, You may as well just play the game. You don't need Fate. Fate doesn't help at all. The book in itself is inherently useless. Next up, we have Anubis, which is useless. Why is it useless? Anubis is really powerful, yes. But for Anubis to work, you need the sword. And sword is illegal, so you cannot use the sword. Therefore, useless. You don't even have a stand. It's just... I mean, you'd just rather have a stand that does something. You'd rather have Deep Blue Moon and not use it. At least you get a stand in and you might be able to see somebody else's stand. Bastet, useless. I don't know who's using PowerPoints in the Squid Game because there are none. Maybe there's one plugged up into the giant mechatronic doll, but no Squid Game has PowerPoints, so useless. No one's touching it. Sefan, S tier. If you can make everybody into a kid, you win. Imagine the start of the red light, green light game. You just walk behind everybody and use your shadow to turn everybody into children. You win. Instantly, you win. I mean, who are you competing with? Babies? They'll die, because they keep moving when it's red light. Derby, D tier. Now, Derby works on, making a bet, and then if you win that bet, then that person gets turned into soul tokens or something. So this only really works if you make a bet that you beat the person in the game, and then you both survive, and then they get turned into a soul token. So you effectively take out one person. It's not really going to work too well. I mean, it does work, but it's not very efficient or effective. Next up, Bird Person, the ice stand, C tier. Again, it's just a force stand, so you can use the ice to just knock people around, I guess. It's practical, not as impractical as the D tier stands, but not as useful as the stands above it, and that's why it is a C tier stand. Coming up next, the second Derby stand. Now, this one's a high tier, mostly because you have the power to read minds. It's still not good stand in the sense that it still turns people into souls, but in Marble or other games where you have to read another person's movements, if you can get them to answer the yes/no questions, then you win. So Marble game and the final Squid Game, especially, yes/no questions, really good, give you an advantage. Can you still lose? Yes, so that's why it's a C tier. Coming up next is the illusion stand used in Dia's Castle. Is this good? No, because they're not good illusions, and basically it's just not that good. It's nowhere near as good as Justice. Up next is Cream with the A tier. So yes, we can't kill people with Cream's ability. If we could, S tier. So yes. But we can still use it to move around space. We can still use it to destroy things, disrupt things. We can move to the other end of red light, green light very easily. Squid Game, very easily. Can also cause the sandstorm. We can also destroy the panel, the platform under tug of war. And yes, tug of war this time, so they just fall down. Who cares? We can do a lot of things with that. And that's why it's a really good stand. And lastly, to end up Stardust Crusaders, we have Zoordo. And of course that's S tier because Star Platinum is S tier and they're the same stand. So again, stopping time, the incredible strength, speed, and the ability to stand hop around the place. S tier, what more could you want? But anyway, that ends our Stardust Crusaders section of our ranking of all stands. If you enjoyed that, please leave a like. If you have different ratings, leave them in the comments. I would love to hear it. Subscribe for Time It Is Unbreakable and Golden Wind. We'll be doing those up next.